Hey, everybody. Welcome to Gross Anatomy Podcast. I am Dr. Jason Cohen.
And I'm Lauren Taylor.
And together we discuss the sights, smells, and sounds of medicine, how it relates to movies, TV, pop culture, books, podcasts, and the world around us. And we're at Gross Anatomy, aren't we?
Yes. So welcome to Gross Anatomy.
And I'm Lauren Taylor.
Yes. And this is our second show back together again.
Second reunion episode. And I'm thrilled. And it's November, December, which is crazy, Lauren Taylor.
It is so crazy. I'm going to be Christmas decorating this weekend. So fast. And then from last week, I have a bit of a recap. We talked about Dave Coulier from Full House. Remember, right. He went in for like what he thought was like a bad cold. He couldn't really breathe. And then he was diagnosed with stage 3 non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Right.
So John Stamos went over. Dave Coulier said, "Would you shave my head?" And John Stamos shows up at his house in a bald cap, and they laugh really hard, and they take a photo of it. Apparently, a lot of people online gave John Stamos so much hate. I read one comment. They said it's the same thing as if your friend gets like their arm chopped off and you just like tuck your arm into a shirt and pretend to be like part of the crowd, or like you're in the same situation. I thought that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And he said he couldn't believe all the hate. He was like, I just wanted to make my friend laugh. Yeah. That's all. And instead of people being so hateful, maybe you should just go get checked out by your doctor, which was the whole point of Dave Coulier.
Yeah.
Saying all this stuff.
Oh, that's a shame. But so did he go and shave his head though?
No, John Stamos said he can't shave his head because he's in a new TV show that won't allow him to.
Right. What, he can't shave his head and then put a wig on?
Oh, I mean, I don't know. I don't know these contracts. These Hollywood actors probably do have really serious contracts.
Crazy contracts. You know, interestingly, I remember years ago, someone in the medical world that I am in had cancer and was getting chemo and lost all their hair. And a lot of the other colleague doctors, in solidarity, they all truly did shave their heads to kind of, rally around and give support to their colleague. And it was an interesting and cool thing. But I wonder today, it was kind of early social media times. I wonder if what people would have said about that, or if they would have been appreciative.
I think maybe if he really shaved his head, they would have been appreciative. But he's got that great head of hair. People probably just really wanted to see him bald.
Right.
But I doubt at like 61, his hair's probably thinning anyways, and he probably really does have a contract. And the whole point was just to make his friend laugh. So.
Right.
All right. Other things I want to talk about is I sent you a photo of my allergy testing. Did you see that?
Yes.
So I had a bad reaction, which means I'm allergic to all the trees and all the grasses around me on the East Coast. So I've been a lot worse since I moved to Washington, D.C.
Really?
Yes. So
you're just faking it so that you could get your husband to convince him to move back to the West Coast. It's all a ploy. I get it.
I sent him so many shots or like photos of my swollen arm. So yeah, it is a little bit of a ploy. But anyway, so I'm going to get allergy shots, but they take 6 months to a year to be effective. So who knows? But maybe in 6 months to a year, I'll sound like I don't have a cold.
There you go. But so what are you most allergic to of all the things you got?
Oak trees, which we have a giant one in our backyard. So
wow. What about animals and foods and things like that?
Animals, cats, a little bit dogs, but I'm not getting rid of my 2 beautiful dogs.
Goose and what?
Goose and Vito.
Goose and Vito. Yeah.
But no, I didn't do it. So he asked me like before in a telehealth appointment if I was allergic to foods, and I just said no. So he didn't test me for any of those.
Ah, I thought they test everything.
Well, he didn't, because I was looking online before this to see like if celebrities had like done any like allergy testing, if they had shots of it. And Joey King, who was in that TV miniseries on Hulu, I think it was called The Act. Remember we talked about that?
Oh yeah, about Munchausen by actually that was Munchausen by proxy, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Where the mom fakes her daughter's illness, which is crazy and a true story.
It's crazy that it's true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So she kills her mom, and that real life person just got out of jail. But anyway, so Joey King posted a photo on Instagram of her testing, and it was all over her back. So she had all those bumps, like showing she was allergic. But I think hers was like mainly food allergies. So I feel like they do that more often on your back.
Right. I thought it's always done scratch test on your back, but they did yours on your arm.
They did it on my forearm, both my forearms.
Yeah, I don't know why.
Huh. I don't know. Maybe he's more old school, but
I thought old school is the back. Maybe he's new school.
I don't know. He's pretty old.
Yeah, I don't know.
Possible.
He's actually 30 and hopefully not listening to the podcast. I remember as a kid growing up, I had one friend who had significant allergies. And I remember he was always, it seemed like every week we're like, where are you going? And he's like, I'm going to the allergist, because I think he was getting allergy shots continuously. I should ask him whatever did he get rid of it? Like, what was he even allergic to? And did he get rid of all of them? Interesting fun fact, speaking of allergies, I now live in a zoo, basically, since meeting Bernice, my wife, who's a crazy animal lover, animal advocate. And just, she always grew up with a ton of animals. I grew up with zero. Well, that's not true. We grew up with fish, some freshwater fish, like basic, like guppies and things like that. And then we had amphibians. I was a big amphibian fan. So we would have like frogs and salamanders. Those were the only pets we had. And I hate to admit, like, it's crazy to say, I hated domesticated animals. Like, I would get like annoyed and upset if I would show up to someone's house and they had dogs or cats, and I'd be like, they should be in the wild. Like, it's ridiculous. But part of it, I think, is I was just afraid and not used to it, but also allergic. And I remember the first time I found out I was allergic, I was at my friend Stu's house, who I often talk about, and he had two big, was it Dobermans or German Shepherds? I don't remember, but two big dogs. And for some reason, I was laying around with them, even though I was frightened of them. And I slept over there, and I woke up in the morning and I couldn't see. My eyes were swollen shut. My whole face was swollen, and I just ran out of that house. And I'm like, I'm allergic to dogs, because I was laying around the floor with them. And that's how I really found out I was allergic to animals and stuff like that. So,
how many dogs do you have now? 3?
13. No. We ourselves have 3 dogs, but then my daughter has 2 dogs. So it's almost like we have 5 dogs, because occasionally they'll come over. And the funny thing is when Liat, shout out Liat, when her friends come over, they'll just bring their dogs, because they know we love animals. So, I mean, we could sometimes have like 7 or 8 dogs just roaming the house, which is nuts.
I know. Well, there are other celebrities with allergies. You want to hear some of them?
I'd love to.
Okay. Ariana Grande, shout out to Wicked winning the box office weekend. She had to postpone several concerts after suffering an allergic reaction to tomatoes. Her throat closed up, and she said it felt like swallowing a cactus. And she also has an allergy to bananas, which I learned is a very rare allergy.
Huh. Interesting.
So yeah, I guess you find these things out the hard way.
Well, let me ask you, are you looking, since you mentioned Wicked, is it on your to see list?
It is not.
Okay. All right. Yeah, because 2 out of 3 of my kids really want to see it. Mm-hmm. So yes, it's definitely something I would like to see.
We talked about it last week, like Wicked versus Gladiator. We said we'd both rather see Gladiator. Did you see Gladiator?
Haven't seen it yet. Have you?
No.
Okay. Maybe this weekend. Maybe Thanksgiving weekend. You too?
Yeah.
But I have a feeling we're going to be going to Wicked.
Okay. Well, then I can talk about Gladiator. You can talk about Wicked.
There you go. Yeah.
It'll work. Sabrina Carpenter. Do you know who that is? Little pop star, new thing. She's allergic to apples.
Ah, interesting.
Zooey Deschanel from New Girl. Have you ever seen that show?
Yeah, for sure.
She's allergic to dairy, eggs, and wheat, and she has to have special meals delivered.
Dairy, eggs, and wheat. Well, wheat allergy is gluten, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's celiac disease often.
Right.
But sometimes people say they're allergic to it and they're not necessarily. Maybe they have a sensitivity to it, or who knows. So I never know with that. But isn't Zoe Deschanel from 500 Days of Summer?
Yeah, I forgot you really
Yeah,
like the movie.
yeah. Well, the soundtrack is amazing with that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Halle Berry has a shrimp allergy, which I've never really heard of. Jessica
No,
Simpson.
are you serious?
Shrimps, is that common?
A seafood allergy is very common, actually. Shrimp or lobster. It's actually a very common allergy.
Oh, okay, I know. Yeah, I've heard of that now.
And the interesting thing about that, in terms of the medicine, to tie it into medicine, is often people who are allergic to shellfish are allergic to iodine. So, and a lot of things we do in medicine have to do with iodine, whether it's the prep to clean someone and prep them before surgery, it's often iodine based. But often we'll give for scans, for CAT scans, the contrast, the dye that we give is an iodine based dye. So, so patients who are shellfish allergic might be iodine allergic, and you have to be careful. I mean, the same kind of anaphylaxis that happens from shellfish could happen with those dyes. So that's an interesting, fun medical fact.
No, that's really interesting. So do you ask your patients before you put iodine if they have a shellfish allergy? Is that what you say?
Well, one of the things I ask all patients in my history is, do they have allergies? So, and any kind of allergies. So if someone says, oh, I'm allergic to shellfish, I'll often say, are you okay with iodine? Have you ever had a CAT scan or something like that? And then if they don't know or they haven't tried, then when they get a CAT scan, often the radiologist may give them like a teeny tiny itsy bitsy test dose to see if they develop a little reaction to it. And if so, they don't give it. Or sometimes if high suspicion, we'll actually have to pre-medicate the patient with steroids to knock down that immune response.
So if they are allergic to iodine, then what's the other option?
Well, if they need the contrast, then we'll give them steroids. We'll give them something and maybe Benadryl to kind of pre-medicate them so that they don't develop a reaction. But otherwise, sometimes we'll do a scan without the contrast. We get less information, but sometimes you get enough information. And then the other option is doing an MRI. The type of contrast that they use for an MRI isn't iodine-based. It's a totally different chemical. And so there shouldn't be a problem with that.
I've never thought about people having a reaction to iodine.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
And then, so if they have a crazy reaction, that's just steroids and Benadryl, as you're saying? Like they didn't know they were allergic and they have a reaction. That's how you would treat it, the same?
Steroids and Benadryl, yeah. And EpiPen, if it's adrenal epinephrine, depending, on what's going on too.
I have to get an EpiPen now just to get allergy shots. So
really?
That makes me nervous because you and I have talked about how we both don't like shots on ourselves. Like
no, I don't mind shots. I don't like having blood drawn. I can't have blood drawn. I'm a wimp when needles suck my blood.
I don't like it either. But yeah, blood drawn is the worst.
Yeah, but shots I'm okay with. I don't mind shots.
Okay.
I can't watch.
Yeah, exactly.
I have to turn my head.
I know. So I'm like, the thought of me giving myself a shot EpiPen.
Yeah. Well, it's a funny. Did we talk about the TV show St. Dennis?
Yeah, we did. I'm still watching. I like that show.
I only saw 2 episodes, but in one of the episodes, doesn't he give? He's giving someone an EpiPen, and he has it the wrong way, and he sticks his finger.
Yes.
Which, believe it or not, happened to one of my wife's best friends. She thought she carries an EpiPen, thought she was, and that's why it was even funnier when when Bernice and I were watching it. We just laughed at each other and said, oh, this is exactly what happened to our friend who, was having a reaction and stabbed her thumb.
But so then she got the medicine anyway, right? Hopefully.
Got the medicine, but it's interesting. Giving epinephrine into the digits is potentially dangerous because what epinephrine does, it constricts the blood vessels. And theoretically, the blood vessels in your fingertips don't have a lot of blood supply. So if you constrict the blood supply to your fingertips or something, there's a chance you may wipe out the blood supply and kind of necrose and kill, part of your finger. So it's just an interesting thought that could happen. But luckily, she was fine.
Well, okay, that's a good tip. So I really got to pay attention.
Yeah, don't do the wrong side. Yeah.
Okay, I will pay attention. Let's see. That's all. Oh, the last celebrity allergy, Jessica Simpson: cheese, wheat, tomatoes, hot peppers, coffee, corn, and chocolate. She had internal bleeding while filming Employee of the Month, which was a long time ago. So somehow discovered all of those things, which is a lot of food to not be able to eat. Yeah.
I'll take a drug history. I'll take a allergy history from my patients. And sometimes I hear weird allergies, like really yummy stuff. And I kind of get sad for them. I'm like, you can't eat that, which is interesting. But one more, since we're talking about allergies and allergy shots, interesting fun fact is pineapple. Some people have pineapple allergies. Sometimes a pineapple allergy lets someone know that they may be allergic to certain antibiotics. For whatever reason, something in pineapple could also translate to an allergy to quinolone antibiotics, things like Cipro or Levaquin. I'm sure you've heard of Cipro, or a lot of people have heard of Cipro, which is a common antibiotic used for like urine infections, skin infections, things like that. So someone who is allergic to pineapple might be allergic to those antibiotics.
That's good. That's good for people to know.
It's good for people to know. Exactly.
I mean, I don't know how common a pineapple allergy is, but someone out there has it.
Someone out there has it. And my sister, I love the story she tells. Her husband got home one day and from work or whatever, and they kissed each other hello. And he had just come from like a work dinner. And a few minutes later, or even seconds later, my sister's lips blew up. And she's like, Adam, can you eat some pineapple? And he's like, oh, right.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is bad. Okay.
I love that story. Yeah, it's a fun story.
Oh, there is one more. Margot Robbie, who we love.
Yes.
She's allergic to egg whites, which I thought, but only from chicken eggs, which I'm like, well, how else would you eat? What other animal would you eat? Ostrich? Or
alligator. No. Yeah, no.
Do people eat that?
Yeah. But not egg yolks.
Yeah, it just said egg whites, but only from chicken eggs. I was like, that's really strange.
Interesting.
All right, I got a pop quiz for you.
Okay.
All right. Which redheaded actress do you think is allergic to strawberries?
Oh.
Lindsay Lohan, Nicole Kidman, or Julianne Moore?
All three.
That would be good. Nicole Kidman.
Nicole Kidman is allergic to strawberries.
Mm-hmm.
Does her being redheaded have something to do with the allergy?
No, I just thought it'd be fun to have a pop quiz. I feel like we used to have those in our very first show.
I like that pop quiz. I don't know if I would have guessed her, but I watched recently The Perfect Couple. Bernice and I watched The Perfect Couple with Nicole Kidman. Did you watch that?
I did. It wasn't my favorite.
Yeah. So I like the author, Ellen Hildebrand. Her books are fun, silly beach reads, and we may have even talked about it. So I had read her book on a flight, and just recently I read that book. And I was like, oh, it's a fun book. Let's watch the show. But it really deviates from the book. And I like the book. So, but I did love the opening sequence of them dancing.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
That was fun.
It's a fun sequence. Like, it would have been fun to be part of that, even though I'm not a dancer guy. But that would have been a fun thing.
Yeah.
Totally. But Liv Schreiber was great.
I completely agree.
He was great.
Yes. He was my favorite.
And the older brother, who was an asshole, I love him from Sing Street. Did you see Sing Street?
I didn't.
You haven't seen Sing Street?
No.
Lauren Taylor, that is your homework assignment.
All right,
and that's a fun movie to watch with your husband. I think it is such a fun. Let's even talk about it next time. Sing Street.
Okay.
He plays this charming older brother, sweet guy. So it's upsetting to see him as an idiot. But he plays the nicest, sweetest older brother in Sing Street. And so I liked seeing him again because I hadn't seen him in anything else. But You got to see Sing Street. I love
Okay.
that. I love that.
I'll
Yeah.
watch it.
Yeah.
All right. I have a few questions for you, but I feel like you answered most of them throughout this talk. I was going to ask you if you had patients with weird allergies, like what's the weirdest allergy? But I guess you kind of like said pineapple's a weird one.
My sister,
Iodine's a weird
No,
one.
you know it's a really weird allergy? So the treatment of, an acute allergic reaction is to give steroids. I've seen people allergic to steroids, and that's a weird allergy. And I don't know what happens if you take it. And I don't know how real an allergy that is, but sometimes someone's like, oh, I'm allergic to prednisone. And I don't deal with it enough to, and it's, since I'm a surgeon, I don't bother investigating, but that's always intrigued me. You're allergic to what we give someone for allergies, but some people have said they're allergic to that. So that's kind of interesting.
Wow. Yeah. And then like in TV shows and stuff, you see like people like allergic to penicillin or they have a reaction. Like, has that ever happened to you as a surgeon?
Yeah, for sure. And we give antibiotics all the time as doctors and as surgeons. So, and we often before surgery, especially certain surgeries, we'll give certain antibiotics, and we give we give a family something related to penicillin. We give what's called a cephalosporin, which is kind of a cousin to penicillin. And so someone who's penicillin allergic might have, like, there's a 1 in 8 chance, or is it 8%? I don't remember if it's, but there's a small chance of cross-reactivity and having allergies to this cephalosporin antibiotic. So with someone with a significant penicillin allergy, the same thing. The anesthesiologist, once the patient's asleep and protected, might give a teeny tiny dose to see if they develop any kind of rash or flushing. And as long as they don't, they give it. And almost always patients are fine. Or they may see a little something and then they'll be like, oh, we're not going to give this antibiotic. But luckily, there are a lot of other antibiotics to give when someone has allergies. Okay,
that was my question. You answered that so well. It's like you're a doctor.
Yeah, yeah.
So then you've never had anyone, or you've never known anyone with a sesame seed allergy? Because I learned that's the rarest allergy in the United States. 0.1% of people.
That's the rarest one, sesame seeds.
Yeah, sesame seeds.
Not enough to remember. Maybe from now on I'll start paying more attention. But interestingly, one of the things in the OR, they list, there's always a whiteboard with the name of the patient, the planned procedure, the counts of the sponges and the needles and all that. And they put the allergies down there too. And it'll be interesting, you think they're going to put all the medicine allergies, but they'll sometimes put all the allergies, like avocado, and I'll be like, okay, let's make sure we don't have any avocado during the surgery, or something like that. Yeah.
Well, it's funny that you say avocado because we were watching a basketball game once, and they always like list the injuries, like what they're out with, like calf strain, whatever. And one just said avocado. Yeah. The player had, and I was like, what does avocado mean? And apparently he had a reaction. Like they were playing in Mexico, and he was like, is there any avocado in this? And they were like, no. And of course,
wow.
Yeah.
I hate it when they do that to me.
I know. Well, it probably got lost in translation. They're probably like, whatever.
Yeah. You know what's interesting? I don't know if you thought about it. For years, when you're flying on, when you're on an airplane, they'll often give a snack as nuts, right? They'll give nuts as a snack. And then for years, they stopped giving nuts on planes because of nut allergies. But I don't know if you've noticed, if you've flown recently, they're back to giving nuts. And I'm confused. Although I've been on a plane where they're like, we're making sure there are no nuts because there's someone highly allergic or something. Have you had any of that ever occur?
I never put that together until you said that. I have not seen like the peanuts on a plane in so long. And yeah, it's because everyone suddenly had a peanut allergy. No, right. I still get like the crappy pretzels or some weird thing I don't want, but not. But
they stopped nuts for a while and nuts are back. And I don't know. Am I missing something? That's true though. I haven't noticed peanuts. I don't think I've noticed peanuts.
Yeah, that's probably just a no.
Yeah. Yeah.
First, I just want to give a shout out to, there was an article in Entertainment Weekly that Dr. House turns 20. Like the show was on 20 years ago, November 16th, 2004. And we watched that show together before and we've talked about it. But one of the questions Entertainment Weekly reporter asked was the question that I was always curious about on the show. They always thought it was lupus. Like, remember that show? Like on the whiteboard, they were always writing like lupus. Like, what could this person have? They always had some strange disease or reaction to something, and they were always write lupus. And the reporter was like, it was never lupus. Why did you guys always think it was lupus? And finally, at the end of the season, I didn't watch that show till the end, but I guess finally the writers decided that they had to make one patient actually have lupus. And they had T-shirts made that said, like, why is it always lupus or something, like, just cute.
Right. And, lupus is kind of one of the more common autoimmune rheumatologic diseases. So I think, it would have been not sexy enough, to give someone something common is kind of my guess on that one.
Yeah, but I guess, like, if you have a wide variety of symptoms, I guess it could be lupus. Like, so that's why it was always on the board. Is that what you're saying? Yeah,
it's always part of the differential. When we make diagnoses and when we're working up a patient, at least when you're a student, early on, it's all about the differential diagnosis, kind of putting together a list of all the things it could be, from the common ones to the uncommon ones. So so lupus kind of has so many symptoms and so many vague symptoms, and so it often could be a possible diagnosis for anything, so I think that's why it always goes up there, because it could always be something autoimmune or rheumatologic. So they're like lupus.
This is one of those good doctor, non-doctor things. So it probably never bothered you. It always bothered me. And obviously this other reporter, I'm like, it's never lupus. Why do you keep saying that? But it makes sense to you.
It does. But maybe I just never paid enough attention to it. Mm-hmm. But I'm not totally sure.
Anyways, that show was a hit.
Yeah, I enjoyed watching. Earlier on, I watched it, but not later on. But fun fact, a million years ago, David Shore, I think, was the creator of that show, right? And he was a doctor, and I think he had been in LA at some point, and someone at one point actually got me his contact info, and I remember having a conversation with him 20 years ago. It's got to be 20, and I don't remember. I think it was about like getting advice about trying to get involved in medical shows or something. And he took the time and had a conversation with me. Obviously, it didn't turn into anything, but it was so kind of him. I think House was brand new, but so 20 years ago or so. And I remember I actually had a conversation with David Shore.
I don't think you ever told me that before.
No, and looking at your pre-op notes is what reminded me of it.
Yeah, David Shore. Yeah, what a success as a writer.
Yeah.
And I was wrong. They had shirts made that said it's never lupus.
We should reach out to David Shore. I'm sure he probably is going, 20 years ago, I had the privilege of talking to Dr. Jason Cohen. He called me and he was so nice that he talked to me.
Hey, you never know. And I honestly don't know what he's doing now. The article I read was just about House 20 years ago.
We should put that on our list of things to do, is try to reach out to David Shore.
I love it. Will do.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, so you've never diagnosed someone with lupus and it wasn't lupus? That's not anything you would do.
As a surgeon, it's rare. I tend not to make those diagnoses, but often the rheumatologist will send me a patient with some kind. In fact, I just saw a patient post-op today who came in with a house MD kind of thing. Weird weakness, was normally healthy. And the patient came to me because they wanted me, the doctor sent the patient, because they actually wanted a muscle biopsy, and not just a needle muscle biopsy, but actually they wanted me to take the patient to the operating room to actually remove a chunk of muscle for the pathologist to examine, to try to make a diagnosis of, is it lupus? Is it something like that? Yada, yada. So I saw the patient today in post-op, and I have no idea what the patient has and what it means, but the rheumatologist and the patient feel that it was helpful, the biopsy, and it's so way beyond my understanding of that stuff.
Wow, it sounds painful. I hope they're okay.
Yeah, yeah, they're definitely great. Interestingly, the patient had a really impressive black and blue, but otherwise they're totally fine.
Okay.
And oddly enough, it's not, it's sore, but it's not that painful. I mean, in the scheme of things, it's not that terrible.
Okay. And then my next question is, you treat, say a patient comes in, they have thyroid cancer, but they also have lupus. Do they get different treatment, or is it?
They get the same treatment, but sometimes, they're on steroids or they're on some kind of treatment. So you just have to kind of factor in other stuff going on with the patient. You need to give them extra medicines or extra steroids or something like that around the surgery. But that's really it. But it's pretty much the treatment is the same.
Okay. All right. You answered all my lupus related questions. Thanks.
They were good. I love those questions.
Dr. Cohen. Yeah. All right. So now we're going to get to our TV review. I miss doing these. We both watched Brilliant Minds, which is on.
Wait, we were supposed to watch Brilliant Minds? Just kidding.
Which is on NBC. And it stars Zachary Quinto.
Is it Quinto or Quinto?
Oh, is it Quinto?
I have no idea. No, it's probably Quinto. I don't know.
Weird pause. Someone will say it right here.
Someone will let us know. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. So I watched it. It was like, I don't know, 50 minutes long.
How many episodes did you watch?
I just watched the pilot. What about you?
Too. I just watched the pilot.
But when I watched
Quinto. I thought it was Quinto, but I'm not sure. I like him from two shows. I like him from. Did you ever watch Heroes?
No, but I read that he was in Heroes.
And he was the villain. He was scary and evil in that, but he was good. He was a really good villain in that. And I think that was the first thing I saw him in, and I really was a big fan of Heroes in the beginning. It was a really fun show. It kind of came out the same time as Lost. And of those two shows, Heroes was kind of my show, not Lost.
Okay.
And then he was in the new Star Treks. He played Spock.
I did see the first one of those. He was good as Spock.
He was a good Spock. Yeah, exactly.
So he's the star of the show. And when I watched the trailer, I thought this show seems like the movie Awakenings, which was 1973. Robert De Niro.
It was 1973.
Robert De Niro and Robin Williams.
Yeah.
And that's about a real doctor, Dr. Oliver Sacks. Yeah. But then what I found out is that show is based on him.
And I didn't know that either. And I didn't put together. I'm not as smart as you. I didn't even think that it was like Awakenings. I didn't put that together at all. I don't know why. It didn't even, and then I read it after the fact.
Yeah. Well, I guess Dr. Oliver Sacks died in 2015. So they wanted to start making a show about based on all his case studies that he did for these neurological disorders. 9 years later, they finally got a show together, Brilliant Minds, which is they say a contemporary take on his life.
Yeah. Yeah. And he had a famous book that I should probably read, right? That it was kind of based on, like the man who what was it? The man who confused his face for a hat or something. What do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't know, but I found out the character who it's based on, Oliver, they call him Oliver Wolf in the show, but it's based on a real life Oliver Sacks. But he had face blindness, Dr. Sacks. And so the character Dr. Wolf also had face blindness. Yeah.
Oh, but he didn't in Awakenings, did he? No.
I don't know. It's been so long.
Yeah, I don't think he did. Yeah, the name of the book is called The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat.
I mean, does that have to do with face blindness? Is that
that's Oliver Sacks's book that he wrote? I think I don't know, but I think I should read it. I think I should put it on my list.
I definitely think you should read it.
Yeah, we should definitely read it.
So
what do you think?
What are our thoughts on the show? I don't want to, I mean, I don't want to be mean. What do you think?
You don't want to be mean?
I liked parts of it.
Yeah. I mean, they did it well. It was dramatic. You definitely, they definitely made a good show. I think, I definitely, there were definitely some weird things that stood out to me. Like I took notes while I was watching it of weird stuff. Now I understand why they made him face blind, because I was like, what's the point of making him face blind? But now I get it. They based it on Oliver Sacks, so I didn't even get that.
Yeah, that's the same exact thing my husband said. They were like, why did they add that?
Right. But now you totally explained it for me, because I didn't know Oliver Sacks was face blind. That's really interesting. And that's I've never come across anyone with that. It's presumably from some kind of brain damage that he was maybe born with or something like that, or had some lack of blood to the brain at some point that caused it, which is interesting. That's probably what made him become a neurologist, because of that, his own experience, which is my guess, right?
You sound like a TV writer. I like it.
There you go. But what was funny, I don't know if you noticed it, and he gets fired from that first hospital that he's working at.
I noticed it. I wrote it down in my notes too.
The name of the doctor that fires him is
Dr. Cohen.
Dr. Cohen. and that was it. He goes, Dr. Cohen, and Dr. Cohen fires him. I don't know about you, but I have never, ever, in any movie or TV show, seen a Dr. Cohen. Have you?
No, that's probably why I wrote it at the top of my notes.
Right. It was so bizarre. I've never, it struck me that I've never, and it's one of the most common Jewish last names, and I've never seen a Dr. Cohen. But his whole role was, I was like, oh, cool, Dr. Cohen. And then he's done. There is no more Dr. Cohen fired him, and he's not going back to that hospital. I was like, oh, cool, there's going to be a doctor, representing me a little bit. Nope. It's to me.
All right. Yeah, we picked up on different things. I picked up on the fact, so his friend comes to offer him a job at Bronx General Hospital.
Yeah.
He tries to entice them with this interesting patient, and then he wants to know more. And she says, sorry, doctor-patient confidentiality. I was like, oh, I never thought about it before, but can't doctors talk about their patients to other doctors? Isn't that sometimes a necessity, or is there really that confidentiality there?
No. So especially if she's trying to get help on a patient, you could definitely consult another doctor and ask their thoughts. So that was just for drama.
Okay. I was like, maybe that was supposed to be a joke. I was like, that seemed real weird to me. But
that was just trying to get drama. I mean, theoretically, yes, but if you have some difficult patient case, all the time we'll ask other doctors for help on figuring out the case, and they don't have to be from this institution. You could, because it's doctor confidentiality.
That's what I thought. Okay, so that makes more sense to me. I'm like, doctors have to be able to talk to other doctors about patients.
Sure. Exactly. Okay. Even if they're not employed at that institution. So that was crap.
Okay.
That didn't bother. That I just thought was silly and cute. But
okay.
But it definitely is fiction.
Okay. I'm sure a lot of pilots are not the best episode of a show. That one didn't grab me. It probably does get a lot better. That's my final thoughts on it.
Yeah, I actually liked the drama of it. I thought they did a good job. I just thought it was a lot of weird, wacky stuff. And supposedly, if I'm not mistaken, I think Mandy Patinkin shows up as a mentor kind of character. I was going down the rabbit hole of trying to find out a little bit more about the show, and I think they said it was Mandy Patinkin. And I'm all about the mentoring and this pre-med program I do. So that kind of I'd be willing to watch it if I'm truly correct that Mandy Patinkin, who I'm a big fan of, he was in the TV show. Did you ever watch Chicago Hope?
That's what I was thinking. He was in a famous show, which I never watched that one, which maybe we should review the pilot of that one.
Yeah.
And see how it compares to current medical shows. That would be interesting. Yeah. But that was a huge hit, and he quit. So it's interesting he wants to go back on another medical show.
He quit that show?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I don't know.
All right, so that's our review on Brilliant Minds, and that brings us to anything else we're watching? Anything else you want to talk about? Pop culture, movies, books, TV?
Not right now, but trying to figure out what the next best thing is. What about you?
Me too. Yeah, we're still watching St. Denis Medical.
Right.
But I mean, those are like quick 20-minute shows.
Yeah. They're fun. They're cute.
Oh, I'm watching Bad Sisters on Apple TV. That's pretty cute.
Don't know it. But the main thing now is trying to figure out the timing of seeing Gladiator, because believe it or not, at least 2 out of 3 of my kids haven't seen the original Gladiator. And I'd like to go see it as a family. So I'm wondering if, like, tonight even, maybe we should all gather around and watch the original Gladiator, which is great.
Well, shout out to my mom. Her and my dad did go see that movie, and apparently she had not seen the first one and does recommend seeing the first one before you see the second one.
Interesting. Okay, so it's not like Top Gun where you could see the second Top Gun and you don't need the first one.
I mean, I would recommend seeing the first Top Gun before you see the second one, but yes, I mean, according to her, I haven't seen it, Gladiator 2 yet.
There you go. Thanks, Mom.
Okay. Thanks, Debbie.
All right, everybody. Anything else we're talking about, Lauren Taylor?
Nope. Well, we'll have a lot to talk about in a week, 2 weeks from now.
Cool beans. Happy holidays, everybody. Thanks for listening.